What's going on, everybody? This is Jason. Welcome back to the basement. So lately I've been embarking on this new journey with Micro Four Thirds. I've always had an interest in it. I've always liked some of the lenses and some of the cameras, so I thought I'd give it a try. So I've purchased the GX1, which I shared in my last video, and the 14mm 2.5 pancake lens. And I also have the 25mm 1.7. So I got a nice kit. And then the last addition to that was the Panasonic 35-100 F4-5.6. And to be honest, when I really think about it, what I really got into the Micro Four Thirds system for is the compact lenses. So everyone knows I'm a Fuji film user, and in the past I have used Canon APS-C and Canon full frame, and then some Nikon APS-C and stuff, and a bunch of other cameras too, but primarily APS-C is kind of where I sat as like the sweet spot for me personally from a professional and personal standpoint. But Micro Four Thirds gave a different proposition. Now, some of the lenses aren't really that small in comparison to some of the APS-C stuff. But one lens in particular, and that is that 35-100, really interests me. Because if I had to think about one hole that I wanted to fill in my personal photography setup, is that I didn't really have a telephoto option. The only ones I had were short telephotos, which were more portrait lenses. So I have the Fuji 50mm f2. I have the Viltrox 85mm 1.8. And then I have telephoto ends on the zoom lenses that I have. The 17-70 from Tamron and the 18-50 from Sigma. But really nothing that gone past, the 85 to really give me like a 70-200-ish lens. And the reason why is I don't like big lenses. I wanted to keep everything small and not have huge lenses. By the way, I have a cold, so if I sound a little strange, I'm trying to get over it. So, bear with me here. So what really got me, so I didn't have a 70-200 equivalent. So I wanted to get a lens that would solve that problem and fill that void. But I didn't want a big lens. I thought about the Fuji 55-200, the 50-230. The 50-230 is a lighter lens than the 55-200. So I thought maybe if it is going to be a bigger lens, at least it'll be lighter. But, ultimately decided not to do that and look in the route of what was in Micro Four Thirds. I even thought about going to the Pentax Q and getting that 70-200 equivalent lens, being really tiny. I actually had it before. So I did have a Pentax Q7 and I had a couple of lenses, and that was one of those lenses. And I did have some shots from it that I really like, when I was outdoors and had good light. And I was like, you know what, that small camera could be a nice companion for a personal setup to have as, backup, for that telephoto reach. But the issue with the Pentax is the small sensor would relegate it for me not to be able to use any of those shots for stock photography or for anything that I wanted to be, crossover from that personal to the professional use side. And so that's kind of where I'm always teetering, because in case, I'm on vacation and I'm somewhere unique, or I get a unique shot, if I shoot it with my phone or I shoot it with a small sensor camera, the file sizes are not, that bandwidth to edit and really make it a better photo won't be there. And I think that the bottom line is that you really can't go less than Micro Four Thirds. I think that's kind of where you hit the stopping gap. Maybe even want 1-inch sensor cameras, but 1-inch sensor cameras that are of any quality don't have long zoom ranges into like the 200mm, so that wouldn't really help me, right? So Micro Four Thirds or a super small sensor camera are really your only two options to get a small package. And so that's where the 35-100 comes into play. And that's what I really bought into this system for, because this lens is small, right? And that's because the aperture is f4-5.6, and that's a key thing because Panasonic does make a 35-100 f2.8, and that's a bigger lens, and that's going to probably feel more like my Sigma 18-50 for my Fuji camera. It's going to probably feel the same size, and that's not necessarily big. That's not a big lens, and I'm okay with that. But I don't really need a fast lens for outdoor telephoto work, because once I get into, fast lenses, I'm always thinking 50 millimeters or less, right? That's kind of where I want to see that focal length. I don't really need it to be fast above that unless I'm doing a professional portrait session, and then I'm already covered with what I have. So this is more about vacation, telephoto, outdoor, good light, telephoto work. And this thing hit the spot for what I'm looking for, because look at this, 7200, I'm holding it with one hand, no problem, right? Exactly what I was looking for. So this really hit the spot. So I went out in my town in Jersey City, went to the park and did some test shots. So I'll share those at the end of this video and really show the angles I could get with it being out in the park and shooting in a New York City view from New Jersey, and really did the job. So the 35-100, this was the reason why I got into Micro Four Thirds in the first place. So I'm happy about that. Okay, so let's talk about the Panasonic GX1. So that's what I use this 35-100 with. This is my sole Micro Four Thirds camera. I got a great deal on eBay for it, and I'm happy with it. Now the camera's resolution isn't so great, and so I additionally picked up this viewfinder, the LVF2, right? Yes, LVF2. This came in handy using this lens because initially I wasn't going to get the viewfinder. I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to use it just like I used the Pentax. The Pentax Q7 did not have a viewfinder option. So when I used that 7200 equivalent lens, I didn't have it. So I was used to using that. But when I did use this testing before, I realized that, I really can't see the screen that well. And when I'm, doing a focal length that long, I really do want to get a good composition, right? So, I can't just be street photography with a 28 mil. When I had a 14, I'm going to strip this viewfinder off, and I'm probably just going to, shoot from the hip, get a fast shutter speed, and kind of like, be street photography. But when I'm doing 72, landscape type photos with a long, equivalent lens, I really want to focus on the composition and really nail it, get my lines straight, really, think about what it is that I'm shooting and take my time. And I really need a viewfinder to do that. So, I, found a good deal on a, nicely used one. You can see a little scratches on that thing. It's, so yeah. So this definitely came in handy. And the fact that you could take it off and make it more modular and small, really, I'm okay with that. And the resolution on this viewfinder isn't so bad. I don't have high expectations. I'm not really trying to take my Micro Four Thirds as my pro work stuff. Is more for personal. So good enough is good enough, and this definitely performed well. So gotta have the viewfinder. The thing about this viewfinder though is that it doesn't have a sensor, so you actually have to press the button to switch between the LCD and the viewfinder itself. So that's something I had to get used to, and I'm glad I did go out and test it, because when I bought it, I didn't realize it didn't have the sensor. So after, I was waiting for it to be shipped to me, I didn't really know how I was going to feel about that until I went and kind of used it and tested it. So overall, I think it's great. It's something you get used to. It's like if you're out there in the bright sun anyway, you're probably 90% of the time going to be doing that. And if you need to switch back, you just hit the button. The button is literally right there, so you can't miss it. It's right in front, it's right under the eyepiece. So that's not a big deal. So I'm happy with the GX1. I think Excuse me. I'm happy with the GX1. I think overall this is an underappreciated camera. This is one that you don't hear about a lot, but it's a very compact Micro Four Thirds camera, 16 megapixels. You know, so it's from that generation where they had the 16 megapixels. No stabilization in here, but the lens has stabilization. I don't really care about stabilization when I'm shooting with, you know, faster, you know, prime lenses. You know, I don't really care about that. But with telephoto, you know, of this nature, especially, you know, having it in the lens is definitely crucial, and it works well for me. So I'm happy with this. So I don't know if you guys have this camera or anyone has any experience with the GX1. If you do, leave them in the comments. Love to hear about it. I'm still learning the camera. So far, I think I've got it, you know, to my liking, but it might be some things that maybe I could squeeze out that, you know, maybe you guys might know. So let me know what you guys think, and see you on the next one. Peace.